Hi everyone, how are you doing today? My name is Mark. I hope your day is going well. This is my final project, and as you can see, I have a few slicers, a few bar charts, and a few line charts. And I also did the income statement. And in this video, I'll show you exactly how to manipulate your data so you could obtain the same result as me, and where to go from there. Okay. All right. First, you'll start with a large amount of data. And let's say that you have a meeting and you will not be able to go through all that data in one hour. So the first thing you need to do in order for you to manipulate the data is to put it in a table, right? And in order for you to put the data, the raw data in a table, you press on the insert tab and then you press on table. And as you can see, my data is already in the table, so it will not allow me to do that at the moment. So these are the steps for you to put the raw data in a table. Once the data is in a table, you can categorize it by dates. You can categorize it by volume. You can also categorize it by highs and lows. And the reason why I have highs and lows is because I'm doing the stock prices for McDonald's, and sometimes the price of the stock goes up and sometimes it goes down. So that's why I have highs and lows in the table. The second step, in order for you to manipulate the data, is to create some pivot tables. As you can see in my project, I have two pivot tables, and with pivot tables you can do a lot of things actually. And with my pivot table, I was able to create a few bar charts. I was able to create a few pie charts and a few line charts, and I also included a few slicers. And as you remember from last time, slicers or filters. With the slicer, I can manipulate the data however I want, and I can find the information in a matter of seconds. So I'll show you exactly how I got to that, and I will show you exactly how to manipulate the data so you could get the information that you need in a matter of seconds. Alright, so now we will we'll create the pivot tables. Alright, so in order for you to create the pivot tables, you go on the data, you press on the insert tab, and from the insert tab you'll see, as you can see, the insert tab gives you many options. You can create some you can find the slicers in the insert tab. You can find the pivot tables and the charts in the insert tab. But right now we're going to do the pivot table. And in order for you to create the pivot table, you press on pivot table. And as soon as you press on the pivot table, this little box appear, and then as you can see, the range is selected, which is our data, and you always want to create a pivot table in a new worksheet. The reason why I say that is because the pivot table will not fit in the same page as the raw data, and you don't want to put it in the same page as the raw data. That would not make sense, and you'll be confused, so you don't want to do that. So these are the steps for you in order for you to create the pivot table. Alright, so I showed you how to create the pivot table, and as you can see, I created two pivot tables because that's all I needed for my project. And from the pivot tables, you can create, as you can see, I have both the data from the year of 2015 and 2016, right? And from the pivot table, I will show you how to I will show you how I got those results on my dashboard. As you can see, I have a few pie charts, I have a few slicers, and also I have a few line charts, right? Once the pivot table allows you to manipulate, it's another tool for you to manipulate the data, because at the end of the day, you will not have time to go through all that data, and it's just an easier way for you to manipulate the data. Okay, all right. So with that explained, I will show you how to create the how to create the how to create the bar charts, how to create the pie charts, and also how to create the all those charts that are there. You'll be able to create them with the pivot tables, right? And once the first step is to select the pivot table. The second step is to select what kind of chart you need for your project. Well, you see you have 2D columns, you have 3D columns, you have 2D bars, and you have all sorts of charts in there from the insert tab. So you just go in there, and then, well, for presentation purposes, I'll create a pie chart. As you can see, this is all the data for the year of 2015 and 2016, and I don't need it because I already have it on the dashboard, so I was just showing you how to do that. And now that you know how to create so this is how you create this is how you incorporate the charts in your spreadsheet. Okay, all right. So the next step, furthermore, we will talk about slicers or filters. And in order for you to create slicers, you need to have the entire pivot table selected. And the second step would be to press on the insert tab and select slicers, right? And you have different kind of slicers. You can set it up however you want, and it gives you a lot of options. Me, for my project, I chose to use the date slicer and the volume slicers, just to make it easier. I don't need all those slicers. You could just select a few, and from there you will be able to manipulate the data however you want, and then you'll be fine. Alright, so the next thing we will talk about is the income statement. I will show you exactly the steps to create the income statement, right? In order for you to create the income statement, you need the data. The income statement is very easy. You just type all the information. For the income statement, you need the revenues. What is the income statement? The income statement is the revenues minus the expenses. And if you have the information on that company, you could just type the revenues and the expenses for that company. And you also need to put some space between the revenues and the expenses, so you'll be able to differentiate between the revenues and expenses. And from there, you just do your addition and you do your subtractions. And in order for you to do find the incomes, the net income for that company, you subtract the revenue from the expenses, and it will give you the net income for that year. And that's how you create the income statement. And after that, you just need to press on the home tab, and before you press on the home tab, you need to select the entire income statement chart. Okay, and then once you have that selected, you press on the home tab, and then you need to put borders around the income statement. And once you have the borders around the income statement, As you can see, for my presentation, I use the outside border, and I have the outside border for the income statement. And then you can also put a few borders around some key items just to indicate that it is an operation, it's an addition. So you just put a few borders around it to make it look nice, and then that's it. That's your income statement. And this was my presentation. I hope you learn a lot. I hope you learn a lot from it, and see you next time. Thank you very much. Have a great day.